As you've seen this week, and so many of us here in the Northeast have felt firsthand, it often takes the worst to bring out the very best in people. From going door to door to rescue the stranded to offering something as simple as a warm meal or a chance to recharge a cell phone. The heroes of Hurricane Sandy are definitely out in full force. So what actually makes a hero? Tonight, as this first phase of search and rescue winds down and the brand new fear moves to gas and fuel running out, take a look at some of the most memorable heroes on land and sea.
The perfect storm.
The rain has really picked up.
The beach used to be about 150 yards that way.
We already have rescues ongoing.
As 60 million Americans braced for the storm of the century, the images were harrowing. A devastating water world of flooding, fire, and fear. But in the midst of those heartbreaking losses were stories of heartwarming courage. Every rescue, a desperate rush to save lives.
The water went up to my neck, sometimes it went over my head.
We had to go out the second-story window. These guys helped us down from the second part of the roof.
Guys, you gotta back up.
Some of the most vulnerable, the 20 tiny babies housed in the 9th floor neonatal intensive care unit at NYU Langone Medical Center. They were among the hundreds of patients evacuated after the East River flooded the hospital and the backup generator lost power. For these 7 NYU nurses, it's a challenging job in the best of times. The babies range in size from just under 2 pounds to 4 pounds and require constant and careful care.
With patients like this, I mean, what does your job entail exactly? Are you monitoring constantly these babies and every single vital sign?
Absolutely. You can see the monitors at all times.
Late Monday afternoon, Hurricane Sandy is in full force. As winds and rain buffet the windows, it is time for a shift change. The day nurses begin briefing the night shift nurses.
Currently, the settings on the ventilator are such and such. The baby's feeding this, the medication is this.
Suddenly, the room plunges into blackness. Those machines keeping the babies alive all go silent. For one brief moment, everyone freezes. Then the alarms begin to ring as emergency batteries kick in.
Everyone went into action.
For the generators to fail in this hospital, for a moment, were you in shock that you were
In shock,
position?
absolutely, absolutely. Everybody ran to the patient to make sure that the babies were fine. If you had your phone with a flashlight on the phone, you held it right over the baby.
And everybody went to the ventilated patients first.
That's your instinct.
One of the scariest moments for me was when I looked out the window and I saw that 34th Street was completely flooded, and at that point we hadn't started the evacuation yet. And in my mind, I was like, how are we going to do this?
4 of the babies were considered critical, needing help from machines to breathe. Without power, the nurses rely on battery-powered respirators to pump oxygen into the baby's lungs. The clock was ticking.
What was your best estimate collectively as to how much time you had before you were in real trouble with these tiny babies?
I would say 4 hours. The vent would have worked for 4 hours.
The rest of you, about the same?
Almost
2 or 3.
Annie Irachi was the nurse for the most critical baby.
And he had just had abdominal surgery the day before. And this is a two-pound baby.
A 2-pound baby, just out of surgery.
Just out of surgery.
And still unable to breathe on his own?
On medications to keep up his blood pressure. And he also had a cardiac defect, so he was our first baby to go.
Each baby was surrounded by a team of medical staff, at least 5 per child. Security guards and secretaries joining the journey 9 flights down. Unable to generate their own heat, the babies are placed on warming pads and wrapped in blankets. Flashlights and cell phones light the way. They use handheld bags to pump air into the baby's tiny lungs.
We literally synchronized our steps. Going down the 9 flights, I would say step, 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 step.
Today they showed us how they carefully navigated the stairs with their fragile cargo.
They're so tiny. You have to, how did you know how much to squeeze when you're manually bagging? Because isn't there a danger you could rupture a lung by pumping too much air in?
Absolutely. You do have to be careful because your adrenaline is flowing.
Right.
We're not usually bagging a baby down a stairwell.
In the dark. Right.
In the dark.
With calling out step,
yes.
step, step. Was it scary to hold this tiny being, this tiny child, this treasured baby?
For myself, I was more worried about, okay, let me not trip on this staircase as I'm carrying somebody's precious child.
Right, exactly.
Because that would be unforgivable.
My particular patient, she had her eyes open. She was really in tune to something is going on here. Things are changing here. This is not my usual environment.
When they emerged, a line of ambulances was waiting. This video of Nurse Margot Condon cradling a tiny baby as she rode on a gurney struck a chord worldwide. But Condon had a singular focus.
I was making sure that the tube was in place, that the baby was pink.
But you were never taking your eyes off that baby's
I was not
face.
taking my eyes off that baby or that tube.
Like the other nurses, she did not feel panic. Her precious patient helped keep her calm.
I almost felt like the babies were giving me a little comfort.
Yeah.
Because
I felt that too.
They love, because they love to be held.
Yes.
So they, every time I would look down at the baby had his little
cozy.
hand on my chest.
Yes.
Like, this is good.
It was that iconic image of Margot and her tiny charge that symbolized the heroism of so many during Hurricane Sandy.
You know, during the darkness of the storm, I think we also saw what's brightest in America. Nurses at NYU Hospital carrying fragile newborns to safety.
Well, even President Obama talked about you ladies and the work you did after seeing that picture of you, Margot. What is that like?
Definitely gave me chills when I heard that over the radio. You know, to hear, you know, our home, you know, being mentioned like that was really touching.
But President Obama's shout-out can't hold a candle to the emotional gratitude from the parents of these babies.
Oh, my friend.
Baby Jackson was one of the last evacuated by nurse Sandy Keong Bradbury. He is now at Montefiore Hospital.
Yeah, I'm just so thankful. Sandy was right by my side through the whole time. They mean a lot to me.
And at Mount Sinai Hospital, Luz Martinez wrapped her arms around Nurse Beth Largy,
We were not going to let anything happen to her.
in whose arms her 2-pound baby Emma survived.
I'm never gonna forget what you did for our daughter.
I just wish that, you know, I had something to give to every one of them, but all I can say is just thank you and thank you and thank you.